Here we go.
Guys, this meeting is being live streamed. What's going on, YouTube world?
All right, I gotta get fucking. Hold on, let me wait for the monitor here to. It says we're live, but I just be safe.
I gotta stir this cheese up here. Nice.
Nice.
Can you see it on your end?
Can I see what?
Can you see us on YouTube?
How did I see that before? View stream on YouTube. There we go. Okay.
There we are. Well, with the lag and everything. So I'm gonna we are live. I'm about to let me mute me. Yeah. Got it. All right, for the sake of yeah. We're fucking live here. This is this is technically episode 2 of Hot Genre Topics.
Well,
how are you tonight, Geanerik?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I had a rough start this morning. I've been trying to regulate my sleep because just I'm working on a lot of my writing. You're actually in the next few weeks, I'm going to be posting a couple different stories on my blog, just to give people an idea of my writing style and kind of what I'm working on.
Yeah.
So the issue there, right, is I've been going to bed super late, 3 or 4 in the morning, just because my brain is
oh, you're going to bed now? Here's all the ideas. And I'm like, fuck, man.
And so I'm waking up and I'm just in front of my computer, and then it's just oh man, it's 3:30 in the morning, and I have to get up at 7.
Yeah.
So I took some melatonin the other day or last night, and I went to bed at 10 and woke up at 1:15, and so I've been up pretty much since 1:15. I took a little nap in the middle of the day, and that is that. But I mean,
at least you don't have a baby waking you up, man. But that's
that's a whole nother matter.
All right, let's get down to business. Look, I don't know if anybody's even watching us right now. I don't even know how that works.
Yeah.
So for any of you, if you are out there fucking watching us right now, thank you. I'm actually right now kind of sharing some links. Forgive me.
I'm also doing the same thing. So I'm on Instagram right now.
Watch this. We're on here.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Do you got it posted yet?
I don't. I never use the I don't know what the hell this is. The freaking desktop version. I don't know. But I have the link. So
Okay.
We'll get it out there.
I'm copying pasting it right now to myself.
Nice.
This
This is the good part.
All right.
There we go.
All right, let's rock and roll. Let's fucking get down to business. All right, for anybody who's tuning in, we are a little slow right now.
We're new to this.
We're new to this. But the thing is right now we are live on YouTube. This is Hot Genre Topics. I am Tyler Geis. You are
Geanerik. There we go.
Was that you or me in the background?
I think that was me. I just muted it here so we can. And I got the live chat up, so we got one person watching us. Whoever that one person is, what the fuck is up? Nice. We got 2 people now. Yes, we're in business.
All right, dude. We got 2 people. Let's fucking rock and roll. All right. So for anybody who doesn't know or didn't tune in last week on Instagram Live, Hot Genre Topics. I'm sorry if I'm taking the lead here. Let's just
you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. for anybody who tuned in last week, pretty much here's the plot of our show. This all originated with Geanerik. He used to hop on Instagram, do an open boxing video of like, I forget what it was called.
So the Nightworms books.
Yeah.
Primarily Nightworms, yeah.
And you drink hot sauce and you'd absolutely almost die. And I thought it was the funniest goddamn thing ever. And you and I have been friends since like the 6th grade. And it was cool to see you doing stuff like that. And so I fucking, what did I do? I hounded you. I was like, we should do something like this. We just go on, drink hot sauce, drink beer, talk horror movies. And here we are. So this is episode 2. First one was on Instagram Live. I'm sure somehow you can catch it maybe down the road at some point. But the reason why we switched over to YouTube is straight up, it's a little easier.
Yeah. And the audio is easier to nail down as well.
Yeah. So especially with a re-air and whatnot. So for anybody tuning in right now, thank you for tuning in. What we do on this show is our first part. We are going to talk about the horror movies we've watched. I really got to like put hot sauce in my peanuts here.
You gotta like,
I'm almost done with peanuts. Like I'm gonna have to chug
it.
this hot sauce. And then we'll have a topic at the tail end. Tonight's topic is, what is tonight's topic?
Tonight's topic is remakes or the original. Which one is preferred, and what are the major differences that stick out to you?
All right, dude. Well, let's get rocking and rolling with what you and I have been watching.
Sure. You want to like go like back and forth, and like I'll do one, then you do one, or
let's say, all right. Let's save. Actually, no. Let's kick it off with the stuff you and I both watched.
Okay. So definitely Hellraiser.
Yeah, Hellraiser, and God, people are texting me right now. Like, what's the link? All right, you know what? Let's save what we've watched in common for a few minutes from now. So you start. I'm going to get some links out so people can tune in. And the floor is yours, sir.
All right. So I kind of this is something that's really awesome. If you've been watching any kind of social media or any of the news that is just like covering horror movies as of late, you will know that Terrifier 2 is out in theaters. Yes. It's an indie film. It's unrated, which is just freaking awesome that an unrated film has made its way into theaters, and that it's also it's freaking brutal, man. And so I did something where some people were kind of like, what the hell? Why'd you do that kind of thing? Basically, I went and I watched Terrifier 2 first. The first Terrifier was on my list of films to watch. I had just never gotten around to it.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So what if you were just like, no?
No, they're
no, man, I didn't give a shit.
And then so the thing that I really liked about it, and this is something where if you're really into any kind of indie films, and you start following the people that are doing these films, you get to see their progression of what they're doing. And what is really interesting about Terrifier is that it had other films that had Art the Clown in it before. It was the actor who played Art was a different person before Terrifier 1 and 2 came out, but it's made it's made $2 million in theaters, a little bit over $2 million in theaters come this weekend. So I think it's only been 2 weeks that it's been out, so a little over 2 weeks, and it's just like this little indie film that is just like smashing different kinds of records. So I thought that was pretty cool, and the fact that it goes all the way back to, I want to say like 2009 or 2011, when they had The Ninth Circle was the first short film where Art was in it. And then they had another film. Well, there was a collection of 3 films. and those were the All Hallows Eve films. I believe you can see all three of those either on Tubi. They might be on Shudder as well. There's going to be a lot of things that we talk about there that are on Shudder or Tubi. Yeah, but those two movies, if you like special effects, but you don't have like a weak stomach, I would definitely suggest to go see those. If you have a weak stomach, probably don't, because their special effects team and the practical effects in those films is like, it's hauntingly good.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, Terrifier. I've not seen Terrifier 2. Is it 2.5 hours?
Dude, yeah. So it is. So strangely enough, and maybe it's because of the order that I watched them in, right? Because I watched 2 and then 1. It's a 2.5 hour movie, and it doesn't feel like it at all. It's very well paced. When it does, it jumps around a little bit. So if you've seen anything like Freddy Krueger or any of the Friday the 13th movies, Halloween films, like it has all those kinds of vibes to it. So if you like any of those kind of movies, just imagine like if you could like take one of them and just set them free and be like, be as brutal as you want. Like that is literally what those films are. Like, art does not care. It's just this like creepy, brutal clown. And so what's really cool about this film is that it's so brutal that when I was sitting in the theater, I was like, okay, I kind of know what to expect. But there's other people that I met that were like, we started talking about the first film, and they like clued me in on some of the things to look for. And between what was going on screen and then watching the audience, because I always try and get a seat in the back. So luckily I got like the last seat in the back of the theater, and went to the Alamo and watched it. And I had it in this like little tiny room that they usually have for like the indie films. And I think there was like 2 people that just like walked out, and they were just like they were just like holding their heads like, what the hell am I watching? And then like the majority, I would say like the majority of the people for the whole 2.5 hours were just like at the edge of their seat. So I mean, the movie is just phenomenally done.
All right,
Definitely
man.
doesn't feel like 2.5 hours.
Cool. No, I definitely want to check it out, and I might have to wait till it pops up streaming, or I know they announced like a Blu-ray release, but fuck yeah. Sorry, I'm still just kind of tweeting out our link and everything right now, but let me that's Terrifier 2. Terrifier 1 is the splitting person in half gag. I thought was fucking
Dude, it's gnarly.
Yeah. So cool. So what we should probably dive into as we continue to talk about some of the horror movies we watched since our last time we were up on October 2nd. By the way, the show is bi-weekly. What are we having for hot sauce tonight, sir?
So the hot sauce, this is one that kind of I'm a little worried about. It's a 7-pot primo pepper hot sauce. It's fiery hots from Buc-ee's. I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but I'm pretty excited to try this one out. Got some chips and queso, so I'm just going to be like loading it onto the chips and devouring them, and probably regretting it later. But hey, I'm excited about it.
So if you tune into the pre-show on Instagram Live, you can check us out before we come on YouTube on Instagram Live at Hot Genre Topics, the Instagram page. So last week I had like a Florida hot sauce, and technically this is a Florida hot sauce too, but it was made by a Texas guy. And I know you're not from Texas, but you live in Texas. Long story short, my neighbor gave me some hot sauce, and he was like, "Hey man, try this shit out, man. Don't be going to no store." And no offense to anybody from Texas, but so like he told me it's spicy. Like, for all I know, I could be about to try this, and so we're just gonna call it Randy's hot sauce because that's his name. I don't know if Randy's going to tune in today or tonight, but regardless, regardless, I forgot what the fuck I was talking about.
Randy's hot sauce.
Randy's hot sauce could be really hot, or it could be really nonchalant. Could be Tabasco. Could be, I don't know. It could just be your generic thing. Generic. But I just put it on peanuts. It's the only finger food I have. So I'm going to take the wheel here and talk about what one thing I watched this week. Sorry for multitasking, because I forgot what the hell was on my list. Blah 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 blah. All right. Late last night, I watched a movie that I literally everybody told me was a dare. A couple of people told me, they were like, dude, it sucked. I was fucking bored. Have you seen Lake Mungo?
Have I seen it? No, I haven't even heard of it.
Oh,
I'm excited to hear about this one, because I don't know anything about it.
So I would think it's up your alley, because you watch a lot of Japanese horror and Korean, and it's an American film, but there is a lot of unnerving scares in it that feel like of that ilk. You know what I mean? Like that kind of horror. So Lake Mungo is it's streaming on Tubi, and I know you're a big Tubi guy.
Yes.
So you can just, anybody who has Tubi, if you're a horror fan, like, get Tubi. It's free with ads. I don't think it's anything but free. You just got to deal with ads. But this is a movie. It's kind of like a mockumentary style, like the Poughkeepsie tapes, which, if you know what that is.
Yeah, I know what that one is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a movie that people either really loved or really hated. Well, I'll talk about the Poughkeepsie tapes another time. But it's kind of mockumentary style, but it feels way more realistic than Poughkeepsie tapes, meaning like the interview footage. Like, there's just like unsettling David Lynch like kind of cinematography in this interview. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, they're hired actors. It is about a woman who drowns while swimming, and her family begins to kind of notice ghosts around the house after she's passed away. They hire people to investigate, and it unveils that the main character's secret double life that she had leads them back to this place called Lake Mungo. And if I'm pronouncing that right, I think it's Lake Mungo. I've heard about this movie for a while, and I thought it was a 2008 release, but it's also saying 2010. Directed by Joel Anderson. I don't know who that is. I'm just kind of naming off some stuff I wrote down. But just recently, it was produced in Australia. I forgot to add, it's an Australian film. So I was wrong. It's not American, but I don't know. Anyway, fuck me, right? Live television. So what happens in this film so this recently was talked about on Shudder's 101 most scary movie moments that they're doing, which I highly recommend. If you're a horror fan, check it out. It is a well-produced, like, I think it's going to be like 8-part series where they're counting back from 101 to 1. They're interviewing Mike Flanagan. Everybody should know who Mike Flanagan is by now, if you're a horror fan. And he is pretty much the main guy talking about it. And I literally there's a scare in this movie that I had the exact same like reaction Mike Flanagan had when he's talking about it so I'll say what it is, because it's been out for a while. It's not giving anything away for you, because I know you haven't seen it, but because it's not like
I'd watch it regardless.
It's not a jump scare. It's just kind of like, nope. No, like that kind of scare. So pretty much they find like this cell phone footage that the girl who died, she was walking around, like, I think it was Lake Mungo, and you remember like flip phone video?
Oh yeah,
like
how the razors. They have the razors now. They're in museums, you know.
Yeah, like how bad those were. And so it's like that kind of foggy footage. And all of a sudden, and she's in the dark, and all of a sudden you see like a figure, and it's like out of focus, and it just has that kind of footage, and she walks up to it, and it is her standing there as her dead body, like how her body was found. And it is this like freaky premonition ghost thing. And I had the exact, like Mike Flanagan describes, like when that part comes, and it's exactly how I reacted. I just like, I got up in my couch, like on my couch. I was like, no, why am I watching this at night? It's just such an unnerving. I haven't really had horror like that in a while. I have, but I haven't. I've had like, I watched horror lately where it's like it's trying to do that and it doesn't really hit, or it kind of does. But Lake Mungo fucking hit. I put it on my 31 Days of Halloween for the basement, my podcast I do. For some of you that don't know and listen, you bastards. And actually, shout out to Allison, who runs the Who's There podcast, who I know you know her as well. She shot a DM to the basement, and she's just like, oh my God, I couldn't fucking sleep when I saw this. Like, did you like it? And I was just like, yeah, I'm dialing it back, and I'm watching like a really bad slasher movie like tonight to just kind of just forget about Lake Mungo for a little bit. So I recommend it for you because I know you're kind of into that horror. Yeah, I'm officially trying my hot sauce now.
All right, I'll crack into mine too.
It's all right, Randy. I feel you.
I'm gonna take a chip first, dip it in this deliciousness here, because who doesn't like queso? If you don't like queso, I don't know if we can.
You don't like queso, you can suck my
balls.
Oh
shit! that is a loose sauce. I just spilled it all over the place.
On his Rammstein shirt.
And it's, oh my God. Oh, my insides are gonna be like, why did you do this? Why did you do it, man? It got some good flavor to it, but it's already building.
Oh my God. All right.
It's so loose, I probably could just drink it. I'm not going to.
Let's plug what we're drinking tonight too.
So, oh yeah.
I brought water this time.
I did not bring any water. I just got the beer. But I am drinking. Oh man. That's got some really good flavor. I'm gonna show this all to you. I'm gonna plug it again. Go to Buc-ee's, check out this Primo 7 pot Primo pepper. Pretty good taste.
Yeah.
My spice is still building. But the beer that I'm drinking today, it's Blanco, Texas. Crispy Business Lager beer. If you're anywhere in Texas, you'd probably pick this up. This beer has become one of my favorite beers. I also have another beer. I might crack into that one later, and if I do, I'll plug that one. But this one's really good. I probably should have gotten a glass so I can pour it and you can see how it is.
I am drinking Elysian Dark of the Moon Pumpkin Stout out of I almost called it Elysium, like the Matt Damon movie. But this is out of Seattle, Washington. I see it around a lot, and I drank their stuff. If you were on the pre-show, which like 3 of you were, I'm pouring this sumbitch right now. Oh shit!
That was a bad.
That was a bad pour.
By the end of this, we'll both be beer pouring experts.
So my floor is gonna be sticky.
You need like a Swiffer jet or something to pick it all up.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll just get a paper towel. But your turn. Next up for you.
All right. So next up on my list, I'm kind of hard picking all these movies. But I wanted to go with something this week that a lot of people have been telling me to watch since it came out. And interestingly enough, it's not the type of film that I would generally watch.
Okay.
I am a lot more into like creature features and like weird like hauntings and that sort of thing. So I'm definitely gonna check that movie out that you're talking about, Lake Mundo. But this is none other than a film made by Christian Taftrup. If the name rings a bell with anyone, I'm talking about the movie on Shudder, Speak No Evil.
Ooh.
So there are a lot of people that like this film and a whole bunch of other people that hate this film, and I'm kind of in the middle. I get
Me
why
too.
people don't like it, and then I am definitely 100% with like the people that do like it. I understand. I think the biggest thing, and I'm not going to spoil it, I'm not going to tell you what happens at the ending,
Yeah.
but the leading up to that point, it's more infuriating watching the parents and their reactions to everything than it is with movies where the mother or father is kind of like the
Randy.
bad child, right? And then they're like, oh no, my child wouldn't do that or whatever. And it's like, this is just completely flipped, where it's like it's a couple that they go on vacation, they meet this other group, and they link up, they're hanging out, and then they get an invite to come to their house, and it's like they don't really know these people, and their friends are like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And then like some of the other people are like, yeah, like why not? Like, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen is ultimately the damning worst line ever in that film, because I feel like right then and there they wanted to use that line as a, oh, like you want to see what the worst that can happen is? We're going to show you.
Yeah.
And the thing that I like about it is there's no closure.
No, there's not. That you did a really, because I've seen it too. I talked about it. We talked about it. I talked about it. I think did I talk about it a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was just you and me talking. But yeah, it is. It is just like it's very much like a social horror, like dinner party horror kind of thing, which like I see kind of happen a lot. Like, oh, this person's invited to a dinner party and the dinner party goes south. Look, I think the film's, is it Dutch? Because some of it's in English, some of it isn't.
Yeah, so it's a Dutch film, but they go back and forth between like English, and then I guess it's two different Dutch dialects if they have to, because it's like at some points they're speaking one language, and then at another point they're speaking another language, and they sound similar, but like the mom a few times is like, can you please like not, can like, we need to understand what you're saying, kind of thing.
It's really well cast, like the dynamic these actors have. It's look, this is a completely banal thing to say. Oh man, my lips. Randy, you're fucking up my lips. My lips are burning right now. Like my everything inside internal is fine. My lips are on fire right now. And this glass is like got beer on it and shit. Yeah, it is a very polarizing film, because I think it's really good until those final moments. And I don't want to say what they are, but Shudder subscribers, you should give it a shot. Forewarning, if you're a parent, it sucks.
I'm not a parent, but I still,
it's disturbing.
I mean, I think one of the biggest things though is, so horror is often it takes a story, and then a lot of times it wraps bad decisions around it. And as a viewer, and this is why I like this film, as a viewer, you get angry because of how the parents react. But then you start thinking about like, well, how would you react? And there are some things where they do where I'm just like, that's completely unrealistic. I'm knocking somebody out, or at least I'm attempting to. And then there's other times where you're just like, yeah, I can see how, they might come to that conclusion, and just like, well, let's just wait it out a little bit and see what's going on. But then there's other points. The bedroom scene. I'd be out.
I'm going home. I'm fucking out of here, dude. I don't know, like, yeah, it was just a very. I'd love to interview the director because, like, I kind of want to, like, as someone who interviews filmmakers, like, I almost like kind of want to start reaching out to like filmmakers who, like, I liked their film, but it's very disturbing and it's one and done for me, and I just want to see, like, just want to pick their brain a little bit, you know, like, why'd you make something really fucked up? Because, like, you know, there's like director of like Terrifier 2, who's just like into, you know, makes a lot of cool gore effects, like completely crazy. Like, you know, there's that. But then there's also just like something like Speak No Evil, that just, I don't know, man. Like, like what the fuck happened to you for you to make a film like this? Was it a dinner party? Like,
I think like the title too, like the title, when I heard it, I was thinking of like the little bears, you know, see no evil, hear no evil.
Yeah.
And then when you watch that movie, by the time that you get to the end, basically the title of the film is explained. They don't come out and say it, but you get why the title of the film is Speak No Evil. And it's because of the actions of some of the characters that really make that title pop. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but you're either going to really like it, or by the time the film is done, you're going to be slack-jawed, and then you're just gonna like have a tantrum and yell at your television.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get some hot sauce from Randy.
Come on, all right, Randy's hot sauce.
So this will just be a quick one. But I just realized I wrote a typo when I told you what it was. But it's actually a 4-part docuseries that I haven't finished yet, but I really wanted to talk about it and really shift viewers to it. With the topic of Shudder. You did watch the Shudder movie. I'm going to go with a Shudder movie as well. Shudder produced the Queer for Fear documentary about queer horror films. And it's fucking really good. It is. I'm curious to see like how things kind of cap off in the final episode because they're going. The first episode starts way back with Mary Shelley and writing Frankenstein and like kind of I'm starting to sweat. There it goes.
Well, we got the mops, you know. Well, I mean, you got the whole kind of like
it's not working. But like it starts way back with like Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein, and like, you know, the fact that like her husband, I think, you know, dabbled around with other men, and supposedly she was interested in women as well. So like it kind of starts to just go back, and then they talk about Bram Stoker as well writing Dracula. There's all this kind of cool historical knowledge that about queers and what I shouldn't say queer. Fuck it. What about gays writing some of the most great horror in that we still kind of reiterate today. Yeah. And by the time you get part 2, you go into the Universal monsters, and the directors behind Frankenstein and Dracula, and kind of these little nods to, you know, what they were pretty much in the closet at the time. And you could see they were kind of working out a lot of the stuff that they had to hide publicly, and they were putting it on screen. And I don't know, it's just they have so many great interviews on there as well. Brian Fuller, the showrunner of Hannibal, I think he's the executive producer, and he's also interviewed on it a lot. Doug Jones is in there a little bit. God, I don't even like a ton of people. I forget his name, but he's the director of was it Hair on Hulu? You don't know that one? Oh my God, it's about it's about like it takes place in the 1980s, and I think they shot it on 16 millimeter.
Wait a second. Yes. Oh no, I'm thinking of Bad Hair.
Are we thinking of the same one?
It's on Hulu.
Yeah.
2020 American satirical comedy horror film, written, directed, produced Justin Simeon.
Yep, that's him. Yeah. He has a lot
Yeah.
of great commentary to talk about in the doc. It's just it's a great doc. There's a lot of stuff that like I learned. Like there's stuff I already knew about, like James Whale's directing Frankenstein, a few of the other Universal monster films. But like there's stuff I didn't know that I've learned a lot about. So it's hard for me to really elaborate on this that much. So I said it's gonna be a quick one, but I recommend everybody check that one out to broaden your horror knowledge. Whew.
I'll definitely check it out. I mean,
You fucking better.
I will. I'm gonna check it out.
All right,
It's on
you're
my
up.
list.
So next movie, this is something I've been talking about. I think I talked about it a little bit in the last episode as well, because I hadn't seen it yet, but I was going to see it. This one it started out as a short film on Alter. Alter is a horror platform for a lot of indie films. Their sister channel is man, you gotta say I gotta try that now. I'm gonna see if Randy will send some down.
Randy, if you're out there.
Uh
Wait, hold on, I'm listening, but I gotta wake something up.
yeah, so basically this film came out 2 years ago. I watched it on Alter. Like I said, the sister channel to this film is Dust, and Dust is like the sci-fi, all the sci-fi original films and like indie films and stuff like that. So I watched this one on Alter, and I think it was like the same name, but it was in Spanish, and I don't know Spanish, so I don't know what piggy is in Spanish. Starts with a C. But basically, it's about this girl who she's like severely overweight, and she's kind of this outcast, and it's really about like bullying, how it affects people, and like the decisions that you make, right? And so the one that you can check out on Alter, that one, I think it's only like 10 or 11 minutes long, something like that. And what I loved about the film, and this is really like if they had just gone and done something else, I would never would have done. Oh man, starting to get the burps.
Oh yeah, brother.
In the actual film and in the trailer that they have, they pull from the short film, and then they elaborate more on it. So there's like longer shots. Some of the dialogue is expanded upon. But there are not a lot of Spanish horror movies that I have seen that are coming out as frequently, which is a shame, because I feel like there are a lot of cool horror movies coming out of all of South America and Mexico. And people just kind of like, it's kind of like, especially when it's subtitled. Anything that I always recommend people that's subtitled, they're like,
What is it like? Is it English dubbed?
it's like, no, just freaking watch it, man. It's good. Yeah, but Laura, I think it's Laura Galen or Gallon Sarah is her name, is the actress. And she does a phenomenal job in that, in selling that kind of like victim that really just like turns around and takes the reins. I thought it would be a little bit bloodier, but I mean, it's really not about gore at all. It's a horror film that is really just focused around like ethical decision making, which I thought was pretty sweet. So that's my third film is Piggy. Check it out. It was at Fantastic Fest here in Austin, and I think it's still playing in a couple different theaters. And then if not, I mean, just go on to Alter and watch the short film until you have access to the full length one.
I watched the short film when you sent it to me. It was I'm isolated from society in Florida sometimes with like cool shit. That's not about the Lord. So if I can track it down in any theater nearby, I'll look at it, but I'll probably just catch it on streaming, unfortunately. But yeah, the short is really, really fucking good. Well, maybe I don't know. We'll plug it during the week or something with the short or something. But yeah. So Piggy, dope, fucking dope flick. From what I hear. Next up for me is none other than also streaming on Shudder that popped up. It's also on Tubi as well, but I caught it on Shudder. This is probably my favorite Dario Argento movie since outside of Suspiria. I love his aesthetic. A god of Italian genre filmmakers. Obviously, his new film Black Sunglasses finally dropped on Shudder. You can actually watch it if you missed the secret screening they did. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. It's a fucking it's good to see Dario Argento back doing what Dario Argento does best with giallo films. But opera for me is like, outside of Suspiria, I feel like, no, I shouldn't say that. But like personally for me, I feel like this is him as a director opening his toolbox of director skills and kicking fucking ass. So opera is pretty much about a murderer going around an opera, a opera company. And I think I forget if it's a Macbeth or I forget the play that they're doing. I want to say it's Lady Macbeth or something, but just guy going around knocking people off one by one. And, the main character is the understudy of the lead, and she ends up getting the lead job. And the killer, rather than like pursuing her, starts killing all her friends, but it's how he does it and how he torments her. This is like one of the coolest. This is Dario Argento at one of his best ideas, if it was his idea. But like, I feel like, yeah, he thought of this. What he does is when the killer gets to where the main character is, and like she's with a friend, killer ties her up and makes her watch him kill her, one of her friends, from one of the peoples that she knows in the opera company. And what he does is he will tape these like razors, like these like thin razors under her eyes. So she has to keep her eyes wide open. And if she blinks, like it cuts up her eyes and shit. And it is like the way he shoots, just like absolute a horrible situation is I love it so much. The way he shoots a scene makes audience members so uneasy. I haven't seen this movie in years. I want to say this was one of the movies that kind of broadened my horror knowledge, or influences, from a few years ago. Suspiria, everybody likes to flock to, and as they should. It's a classic. But I think opera is like a close second, and he has a great filmography. So yeah, I caught opera this week.
I feel like it's kind of all over the place, and I definitely have to give a shout out to Judith Sonnet for turning me on to Dario Argento.
Yeah,
and I'm starting to get into Bava films as well.
Oh, dude, you got to get into Fulci too. Well, Lucio Fulci feels like you're watching. It feels like you're having a fever dream sometimes when you're watching his stuff. Like you don't even know what the fuck is going on sometimes. Like Fulci's a good like City of the Living Dead or something is a perfect movie to put on at 2 a.m. And like that, there's just moments like where you're awake, but you're not really awake. And there's things that happen. You're just like, what? Like, and you'll remember it the next day. You'll be like, wait, that you drilled him in the head. Oh yeah, that did happen. She was buried alive, but yeah, I love Italian filmmaking from the 70s and 80s. But what's next for you?
So there's two other films, one which we both have seen. I don't know if you have seen this other film, so I'm going to go with that one first.
Okay.
It is the second one. There's a third one that they're working on now. It's directed by Patrick Bryce and Mark Duplass. Mark Duplass is the main character in these films. He's absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
The movie I'm talking about is Creep 2.
Yes, yeah, dude. Let's just finish off with what you and I have seen together. I didn't watch it this week, but yeah, I've seen Creep 2.
So Creep 2, for anybody who has not seen any of them, and Creep, because they follow pretty much the same premise.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about these films is that he is a serial killer, and
Randy's a serial killer.
So he makes it known that like he's a serial killer, and what he does, I'm sure for the people that have used Craigslist, you know that place is just a creepy spot. People get robbed on there. People get like,
oh yeah, dude,
missing and murder cases and all sorts of other stuff.
When I moved to Florida, man, like I took like a Craigslist job, like
yeah,
and all of a sudden I'll let you finish, but like I need to say this, like suddenly I got like a fucking check mailed to me for like $3,600, and like somebody was texting me like, hey, you need to cash that today.
What?
Like I signed up, like I was struggling. I just moved. Like I was struggling to like, I needed a fucking job. And like, I just took anything. And like, someone was just like, hey, how about you be my personal assistant or something? And I was like, sure. And then I never even met the guy, but then I got like, she's like, I get a check at my doorstep for like $3,600. Like, then like a text, like, can you cash that today? And I was like, no. Anyway, continue.
So basically the serial killer, he puts out ads on Craigslist and people coming to answer him, and basically his angle is that he wants to film a documentary. So in the first one, I think it was like just his life. He wanted to film a documentary about his life and kind of just like the hardships. Yeah, because he's dying, right? Like that was his angle. He's not dying. So in the second film, I feel bad because I think your hot sauce is like 30 times hotter than mine.
Yeah, I like forgot you had hot sauce.
So he in the second one, so he sends this email. Somebody responds to it, and then this time he is very clear. He's like, yeah, I'm a serial killer. I'm documenting everything. And I mean, there's going to be some spoilers here because it's really the only way to talk about this film. So he's like, yeah, I'm a serial killer, and I'm just kind of like lost my interest in everything, and I want you to do a documentary about my life as a serial killer. And so this girl that he invites to do this, she's like, yeah, I guess I'm down. She has like a failing YouTube channel, and it's kind of like The Room Now, and it was nobody's really watching.
Oh shit.
She has like a few like diehard fans, and like that's it. And like she was like, I thought I would like make some money off of this and buy a house and all sorts of stuff. And she takes this job, and things just don't go really well. But the thing that is very interesting about the Creep films is that he's not really hiding anything about being a serial killer. Like he is very creepy, and the whole time you're like, why are you not leaving? Why are you not leaving? But like he knows your address already, like he's that kind of guy. So it's just the whole movie is very creepy. I love the ending. They have they throw this awesome twist at the end of it, and then that's really what I feel leaves it open for a part 3. So I'm excited to see where it goes. But what did you think about that film?
Both of them, or
I guess just the second one for now.
Dude, I think it's like the Godfather 2 of horror movies, because I think it rivals might even be like even a little better at times than the first one. I just fucking the Duplass brothers, man, or I don't know if it's, or it's both of them, are just Mark Duplass on this one, but they're oh my god, I can't talk. The shit caught up to me.
It builds, man. I mean, I might not be showing it, but like my throat is on fire right now. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
No, the Duplass brothers just like they know how to be like, hey, here's a really like little cheap concept. Let's make a really fucking good movie. Mm-hmm. And that's just what I don't know. I haven't seen it in a few. I don't think I've seen it since it came out, but that's like the best low budget franchise like out right now is the Creep movies.
You can watch it on Shudder, I believe. Both of them are on there.
Nice. I think they're on Netflix too.
Yeah,
still
on Netflix. Yep.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the other two and then of course I'm going to end it on a big note. Then they'll kind of kiss to our topic real quick. So let's talk about movie. We do have 2 subscribers to Hot Genre Topics right now. I should say.
Yes.
Shout out to our 2 subscribers we got on our YouTube page. All right. You and I both watched fucking Dead Space. I already forgot the name.
Dead Space is awesome. Deadstream by Joe. It's directed, written by Joseph Winter and Vanessa Winter.
Yes. What was your thoughts?
So the main character is super annoying, and I know that they did that on purpose, and I love how they went ahead and like they basically like so what it is for anybody who hasn't seen it is this guy is he's like a paranormal this paranormal channel that he has on I guess it's either Twitch or YouTube. I was trying to figure it out with like the live stream feed that he had, but basically he goes to all these different haunted places, and the one that he goes to, there's supposed to be just like all this like bad stuff that's happened there, but there is like one like safe haven room that he's mapped out and he's read about, and that's like where he's going to conduct all of his things that he's going to do there. Yeah. It just builds.
The hot sauce or the movie?
Yeah, well, both, but definitely the hot sauce. And
I watched it too. And
yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's get to like your kind of.
So, look, my take on it is this, and look, I'll say this live. I reached out to the directors to come on the podcast, and may or may not happen. I don't know. I was dealing with a publicist, but because I like 20 minutes in, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is for me. You know, like I was just kind of like, the whole making fun of the influencer thing. Like, I feel like it's popped up the last few years. Some people have succeeded. Oh, I'm burping now. We're at that point in the show. It succeeded. Some of it's just kind of been like, sometimes it's just like, it's a little annoying. I get you don't like influencers, but you know, one movie that did influencing the influencer thing really well was Superhost, directed by Brandon Christensen, that came out last year. Because he made it like about mental health too, and like he went deeper with it. Like it's not just like, yeah, fuck those people kind of thing. So like this character, who is the director, I believe, I was just kind of like, I fucking hate this guy so much. Not him like personally, the character he's playing. So like it made it hard for me to like root for him. And I don't really think you're trying to root for him that much. But once what needs to happen in that movie needs to happen, I was on board. Like I loved it. Just felt like Evil Dead to me. Like live streaming Evil Dead. Like show this to Sam Raimi. And you know, even though they're obviously I think they're doing something with Evil Dead right now. But it wasn't the greatest thing I've seen recently, but I could tell, you know, they were having their cake and eating it too while making it. And I respect that. But yeah, those first 20 minutes, I was just like, fuck this guy. But once it got going, I was like, all right, I'm on board with this. But yeah.
I mean, the comments too, and I mean, it was definitely something where you had to watch what people in the comments were saying, because it wasn't like some films where they have like the stream on the side and like, you know, it's there for like the aesthetic. His crowd reaction was pretty much saying what the audience is saying, like, come on, man, like you came into this haunted house and like now it's like you want to leave and you can't, like like you haven't done anything yet. And he's like, oh well, come on guys, like I don't know if I should stay or not. And it's just like, yeah man, you're staying, like you gotta. And then once that 20 minutes gets into it, you know, then like the tables just flip and everyone's like, maybe you should leave.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was fun. It played South by Southwest last year, I guess, and did really well. No, it was cool. But let's jump into the two kind of main event movies you and I have watched the past couple weeks. They're the big kind of land. Well, actually, no, you haven't seen the one that just dropped. Yeah. You went back in the franchise before you went to it. So I will talk about that one to cap things off. But let's talk Hellraiser. It's been a week and a half since it dropped. What are your thoughts?
So my favorite films before this one came out were 1, 2, and the very not so liked 4.
Ooh, 4. Wow, you are in the minority.
Yeah, so I really liked 4 because it went through a lot of the history and introduced the puzzle maker and kind of like what was going on behind there. And yeah, it was super cheesy, but I loved it because it introduced more of the lore that I wanted to know. And I wish they had gone into that more and gotten darker with the series and gone a little bit further towards like the seriousness of the second book and like gotten into that. Which they didn't, but I feel like with this new film, man, what they did with the box and the different event configurations and how it kept changing, and it wasn't just like, oh well, you've summoned them and the wall opens up and the Cenobites walk out. It's like they haunt you.
Yeah.
The transitions between how they get you, right? Like, so when they're and I'm just spoiling this. If you haven't seen it yet, I mean, sorry. But,
yeah, there's not too many people watching right now.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody who is watching. I don't think we've done that yet.
Yes, thank you for the support.
Yes.
For those who have come in.
First night on YouTube. I get it. It might be a little slow.
So one of the scenes that really got me is when they're in the van. It's coming for their friend and they're trying to drive away. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a smart idea, because like in the original ones, you could run away. I mean, they'll come back and find you, but like you could run away for a little bit. Not this time. And this time it's like they're driving, it comes up behind them. And it really just like cuts them off. And then so they're driving and they're like, oh, you missed a freaking turn. You gotta go around, you gotta like turn around and everything. Like, they're all like panicking, and their friend is just like bleeding out in the back seat. And there's literally like this just like awesome, hopeless dread feeling.
Yeah.
But you don't really know exactly what's gonna happen, because you're like, okay, how are they going to get their friend away? And how are the Cenobites going to come and get them? And then you just get that scene where it's just that it starts to elongate, and the reality for this person who has been, you know, pegged as a sacrifice to these Cenobite creatures, it's just like pulled into this other reality. And I'm still kind of confused as to how they didn't notice, because when they look back, she's just not there. And I'm trying to figure out at what point that character just was taken. But man, when they capture her and she's just like hanging like that, and they're just like, oh, you're praying, like what do you feel is like your salvation or something? I can't remember exactly what they say,
Yeah.
but like, man, just the way that all of those Cenobites like played their part, and I can't remember her name very
they
well.
were all
She-
flawless. I
yeah.
mean, shout out to I
Wow.
forget the actress's name, but the new Pinhead. She delivered, man. I thought she was awesome. I thought her dialogue they gave her was perfect.
Jamie Clayton.
Yes, I wanted to say Jamie Clayton, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
She got Doug Bradley's, the original Pinhead's blessing as well.
Mhm.
Clive Barker speaks highly of this as well. Look, I like Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3 until like the last 30 minutes. Like it falls, it like 3 kicks off really good. And then I do like how you get the backstory to like what happened to Pinhead when he was like a man.
Mhm.
Like that was cool, but like when they do like these Vietnam flashbacks and it looks like North Carolina. Because I think they shot it in like Charlotte and it just like looks like the countryside and like the Carolinas. And I was just kind of like, well, that's not Vietnam. So you could tell like 3 was, I mean, I know you like 4. I've seen the sequels. I don't know, like they're hard for me to get into.
Yeah.
By some point you realize that like, because why they kept making sequels, bad sequels, was because they needed to keep the rights to the movie. So they would just have a script. I guess this, as the story goes, is there was a script and I think it was the Weinsteins, because I think they had the rights to it at Miramax, and they would have a script and they'd rewrite it and put the Cenobites in it. And that's why like they were so clunky. But this one, first of all, when the trailer dropped, I remember going like, fuck, it feels very young adult YA.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I was really worried about that.
Like 30 seconds into the trailer, I was like, no, it's the dude from 13 Reasons Why on Netflix. Which honestly, like the first season was actually a really dramatic show. But I don't know outside of that. But and then like once the Cenobites show up in the trailer, I was like, oh, okay. Like, all right, like this feels very unsettling. And that's what I love about Hellraiser. I didn't start really watching Hellraiser till maybe like 2010, 2011. And I just remember like once I finished the first one, I bought it on a blind DVD and been like, I have to check this out. I just remember like feeling like, oh my God, horror movies are more than just the monster in the closet, the killer with the bloody knife. They can go really fucking deep. And like, I don't feel in those first 2 and in this one, I mean, I'm more of an adult now. So like, I get it. It's a movie, but like this new one still had like, gave me the vibe of the first 2. And I remember just kind of like being like, okay, the fact that I'm getting the vibe that I got when I originally watched the first 2 means like, okay, I think I'm in for a good one here. Just like, I don't feel like anytime I've watched those films, I'm like, there's not going to be a happy ending. Like there's just not. Like the Cenobites are here to fuck you up, like, and take your soul to hell. And like the funny thing is like they're not even really the bad guys.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they're just travelers, and they're just like, well, you called us, like,
yeah, what's up? We're fucking
here.
I know we're talking about the new one, but I love that scene in the first Hellraiser when the main character calls them and brings them into the world. And Pinhead's like, the box, you opened it, you called us. And he's basically just like, what's up? What do you want? And like, it's kind of this cool thing how they're like these absolutely terrifying creatures, but they're just doing their job. Like,
that's why they're there.
Yeah. So like, I loved it. I started to see a lot of divisiveness about it, but I mean, like I would say 1, 2, and this one for me.
Yeah.
Like 3 is now maybe my 4th favorite one, but
yeah, I would definitely say that this new installment, I would say ties with 2.
Yeah, I would.
So I would still say one is my all-time favorite.
All-time.
And then 2, and this new entry into Hellraiser, and then still like 3 would have to be 4 for me.
Yeah.
I do like 3. I think it's because they went into the puzzle box creator, and like, I mean, it was a super cheesy movie, but I love the fact that they brought in some more lore.
Yeah.
To everything. So
cool. So before we get into our main topic, and this is actually a good toss to our main topic, I am going to talk about what is on the internet's mind right now. And I know you haven't seen it.
I'll get there eventually.
Oh shit. What the fuck? My phone just opened up. Sorry about that, everyone. So the big talk this weekend is Halloween Ends.
Yes.
And I don't know if I like this still. I don't know if I like this movie or not. Like, to this I don't know. So I don't want to give spoilers out because I know there's only probably a few people watching, but I still don't want to give spoilers. So what I am going to say, here's what I'm going to say. I watched it on Peacock. I didn't go to the theater yet. And it started streaming 7 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time on Peacock. And I was like, okay, I'm staying home. This is my night to watch Halloween Ends. And I was hyped because if anybody who knows me knows Halloween is like my franchise in the genre. Like it's the movie I watched, like the original John Carpenter film got me into the fact that, there's this person behind the camera that can make a movie like this. Like it just always was like that. Carpenter's one of my favorite filmmakers. And the franchise has gone on and on and on and on. And now you have these 3 Blumhouse produced films. And I liked 2018's Halloween. I thought it was good fan service with something new. And, there were some things I didn't like, but I was like, overall, it was pretty good. Halloween Kills last year. I think it was super cool, kick-ass Michael Myers killing fucking random people left and right. Awesomeness. But outside of that, the plot I thought was horrible. And the acting I thought was horrible. I thought the script was horrible. Sorry, like I hate to say it, like it's definitely at the back end of my likes of the franchise. So the bar was low for Halloween Ends for me. And I put it on, and the movie starts, and the opening scene, the opening scene I think is very well crafted. And I'm thinking this whole time Michael Myers is going to jump. I'll say this. This is the only giveaway I'll give. Michael Myers is going to jump out and fucking kill this character and the kid that he's babysitting. And he doesn't. Something bad happens, but he doesn't. And the credits roll, and then the movie begins. And there is a character introduced in this movie that we didn't know in previous films. He's this new character that like we're supposed to get to know. And we spend 45 minutes getting to know this character and how he meets one of the main characters in the film. And I have to give David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, the writers and director of it, credit, because I didn't know anything about this character, and I actually got really invested in what they were doing. I clocked it in. I think you go 45 to 50 minutes. This is an hour and 50-minute film until you see Michael Myers. And
this is the new one?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then that worried me a little bit. But I won't lie. I was invested in the story that they were setting up. But what I started to panic about is when they bring Michael Myers into the story, are they going to stick the landing? And I think there are people that hate this movie more. And I don't hate the movie, but there are people that hate this movie right now because of how they tie all this together and how there's supposed to be this big standoff between Jamie Lee Curtis and Laurie Strode and Michael Myers at the end. And there is, but because of everything they set up leading up to that, it's not that big of a payoff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, look, for this to be like the final installment that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to do, I understand that's got to be a hard thing to write. That's got to be a hard thing to create to get her to be on board, everybody be on board on the same page. That like writing a series finale has to be hard. So therefore, if I watch a series finale that sucks, I forgive them. Like it's got to be fucking hard to do.
Yep.
So like this thing, I'm like, yeah, this has got to be hard to do. I'm not expecting to like, I mean, it's really cool when like you get a good payoff, but like, I'm not like pissed, but to me, it did not stick the landing. And I understand why people are mad, but to extend an olive branch, this movie had a lot of vibes of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which as people of the fan base know, does not even have Michael Myers in it. It's a completely new thing. It was John Carpenter was trying to take the brand in a different direction and do like a anthology thing every year, a Halloween movie, but something different. And it bombed. But people look back on it now and go, wasn't that bad. So this one, I don't know. Like, I would love to just hear David Gordon Green's vision of why they did what they did. But I don't know. Like, I want to love it, but I want to hate it. But I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's just, I don't want to give anything away, but I'm a little disappointed, but I also want to see it again. It is such a fucking polarizing movie. And I don't know, but there's my take on Halloween Ends. I don't know. I mean, you're not going to like it. I know you're not going to because well, tell me what you said and thought about Halloween franchise.
So basically what I said, so I went back, right. Because I know a lot of the people that I talked to, and I know a lot of the horror community is really big into Halloween and Friday the 13th. And so I was not allowed to watch those kind of movies. I couldn't even sneak them. It was because a lot of the other people that I knew at that time, like they just didn't want to watch them because they were like freaked out. But I hit up Tyler. I was like, hey man, I know those other films are going to come out. Should I watch those first or should I go back and watch the other ones? And then at like, man, I was at like 1 or 2 in the morning. So send Tyler this message. And I was like, I'm like 3/4 of the way through the first Halloween movie. And this is like a boring dud of a movie. I was bored out of my mind. Like even that 3/4 of the film, that film probably, like, I think I started that film at like 11. The movie took me 4 hours to watch. I was just bored out of my freaking mind.
A 90-minute movie. What the fuck were you doing?
I just like got up and like was like, like I'll go like read for a little bit and come back. And then, but so the thing that I was trying to do with those two films, and we'll probably circle back around to this once because I do plan on going back and like watching all of them, and then getting into the new series here. But having known, like half of my tongue is numb right now, so I'm trying to like.
We're still drinking hot sauce.
So like knowing how big of a following it is, and then just like looking at it less subjectively and more objectively is like, okay, like this is a huge horror franchise. Like, why did people like this film? And like what makes it so interesting? And honestly, if I had just stopped at part 1, I would have just been like, yeah, fuck it. Like, I hate this film. I don't understand why people like it. But the thing that really saved it for me was during the second one. And it just picks up right where the other one left off. I thought it was going to be like, like years later or something like that. And it's like, nope, we're going to continue on with the story and we're going to elaborate on what's going on. And that, I think, just sitting down and watching those two movies back to back, that's
a good double feature. Yeah.
Yeah. And
people hate too.
I don't know why.
I love it.
because I felt like that was one was the setup and two was like the actual story.
And two, like you got to remember one, and I'm not making excuses to try and defend my movie that you don't like. One was like the first one was made on $300,000, like that,
Yeah.
not a big budget.
Mm-hmm.
So like two is when like Universal Pictures got involved and like they had a fucking budget to make that movie. So you can tell they're playing with like a bigger sandbox on two.
Oh yeah, like everything about that film, like visually. I mean the dialogue is kind of funny. When the doctor is like, he's like, I shot him 6 times.
Dude, Loomis is the best, dude. Like
I love
6
it.
times.
I had such like the first one. I wouldn't say that I hate it. It was just it's one of those things where it's almost, I want to say 30 years, right? Because I wasn't like a 5-year-old, like, hey, I gotta watch this film, but
Yeah.
I would say it was close to like 20 years of buildup of this film where everyone's like, it's a freaking classic, you gotta watch it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I watch tons of old films where like I don't have that nostalgia factor tied into it. And I'm like, I can see why people love this film. But it didn't hit me the same way. So I was like, man, this is freaking cheesy. And then like you go into the second one, and I feel like the second one is really what gives Michael Myers that dread.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I feel like there's not a lot of people out there that like two for some reason. I think two gets a little clunky. Mm-hmm. If you really kind of know backstory of like John Carpenter was writing it and he had writer's block. So that's why you get the Michael, Laurie, brother, sister thing that ends up going throughout the franchise from then on to the Blumhouse movies when they just like axed that. And like, it was just because he had writer's block and he couldn't write like anything more into the film, and the film was kind of bland. So he's like, fuck it, I'll make them brother and sister. And I still think it's cool, but like, I don't know. I think two gets a bad rap, and I thoroughly enjoy that one a lot. So fuck off. All you haters on two. Let's jump off into our topic for the night. I look like I have less hair than I actually do because I've been sweating, and now I just look like I greased my hair.
I think my hair has like maintained its shape, but definitely like underneath, like if I go underneath it's like a sauna.
Yeah.
I think it's like 70 degrees in my house right now, and it feels like it's like 90.
I look like I'm at a party. All right. With Halloween Ends here being like kind of a reboot or a third installment in kind of this, it's not really a reboot or whatnot. It is a continuation trilogy of the first one, but you and I have decided to talk a little bit about reboots and revamps or whatever of our favorite horror franchises. And I don't really know where, I mean, I know where to start because I do have a franchise I need to talk about, but where do you want to start?
Well, I think we kind of like jumped into this a little bit with Halloween, and then again with Hellraiser.
True.
But I think for this one, I'm probably just going to let you go first.
Okay.
But I will say that I two of the films that I can think of would have to be Evil Dead and Candyman.
Okay. I the 2013. Yeah, dude. I just rewatched the new Candyman. Fucking great film. I love it. Oh, you don't like it?
What?
Do you like Candyman, the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I thought it was
I didn't
great.
hear you respond. Well, look. All right, I'm going to start with a reboot that came out in 2009, and it's one of the big franchises. It's one of the biggest franchises, and it is Friday the 13th, 2009. I fucking love it, and everybody seems to hate it, but there's been some chatter that people kind of actually really do like it. I don't know if you've seen have you seen the 09 one?
No.
Oh, I know you're not a big slasher guy, but I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, Hellraiser and Freddy Krueger, I've seen all of those. But for some reason, Halloween and Friday the 13th just kind of. I saw the first. I think I saw the first one, and then I saw the one where he goes to New York.
Dude, no. Fucking love Jason Takes Manhattan. No. Friday the 13th. All right. The 2009 Friday the 13th, I think, was really fucking good because it takes everything you love about the first 4 movies in the franchise. And it's kind of like this, it's almost like it is the sequel to part 4. Because a lot of people like to argue after part 4 is 1 through 4 is like this succession of sequels. It feels like where there is kind of like a storyline somewhat 1 through 4 that you can follow. Even though there's different characters throughout it, but like after 4, like in 5, it's not even Jason, it's a copycat killer. And actually a lot of people are comparing Halloween Ends to Friday the 13th part 5 because technically Jason isn't even in it. But after part 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, they just become very self-aware and like they're some of them are fun. Like part 6 is fucking fun. Like part 6 opens like a James Bond film. Like it literally like zooms in on Jason's eye and then it like he's in like this circular thing and like he walks in and Jason just like slashes the screen. It's James Bond. Like so the 2009 reboot I thought was like a solid, like I feel like kind of follow up to like maybe the first 4, and it has this awesome, I remember seeing it at midnight, February 2009 it came out, and it has this 15-20 minute like prologue, like setup. There's like just the movie starts and it has this build and build and build to like when Jason shows up and just fucks these people up. And it has this great shot that fucking hit in the theater. Where like this girl's like on her like back and she's moving her legs and she's kind of like scantering backwards. I think that's the word. And like the camera's kind of low up on like behind her and up at Jason. And he's just like kind of stepping up to her and like goes to take a big swing with the machete. And then it cuts to black. And then the title comes across and you're like, yo, that is the beginning of this fucking movie. And I remember the audience applauded. And I thought like, was that it? Like, was that the movie? And then it goes into the actual story and it just hit. Like, I don't understand why, it had everything you need in it. Like it wasn't trying to be elevated in any sense. Like this was before we got those movies, but it also wasn't trying to be like a dumb slasher. And I think I think it was also trying to give fan service, which is perfectly fine in those kind of movies. Like the fans of that franchise want something in it to give a good payoff, but they also don't want it to be cheesy. And it didn't come back. Like they never did a sequel. And I think it's also a rights issue. And I think there was something in the news this summer that somebody got the rights to it. And now you're just like, okay, they're probably going to go in 3-4 years. We'll have a new Friday the 13th again. So I love that fucking reboot. I don't care what anybody says. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot. And the guy that got to play Jason, I forget wow, I'm really embarrassed. I forgot his name, but it wasn't Kane Hodder, but he played a good Jason. If anybody knows who that is, please leave a comment below. Yeah, I don't know. What do you got for me?
I am going to go into The Evil Dead.
Do it. That is a solid reboot.
So I like the reboot more than the original. I know that's going to be one of those things, and that's why I wanted to talk about this topic, because I know people are going to come back, they're going to watch this, and they're going to be like, they're either going to agree or disagree. And I feel like when you look at these films, it opens up a kind of a dialogue. So, in the original ones, it was like it was just kind of like just cheesy. It was cheesy, but it was still gruesome.
They're fun.
Yeah, they're like fun, cheesy, gruesome films. And so I remember watching that film. I think like that was like one of the times where I had like my grandparents had taken a walk, say like going on a walk sometimes. So my parents would drop me off over there. And so they wound up going on a walk for this entire film. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I'm like, when you're a kid, it's like your mind is going to go like rampant with like just like imagining things, right? And so like I'm seeing what's on screen, and like my mind is going like, man, like that could have been so much worse. Like it is worse. It's like it's bad, but like it could be worse. And then when I sat down and watched the remake, I think that was the first film I've ever seen where I felt uncomfortable. Especially in the scene where she's like when she's running away and she's in the woods, and like the vines come out, and they
in the old one or the new one?
In the new one.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was just like, oh, like I was like, am I supposed to be like watching this right now? Like is somebody like gonna come out and be like, hey, turn this off, you can't watch this kind of thing. But yeah, like I was sitting there in the theater and I was watching that, and I was just like, dude, I was like, this is freaking insane. And then like the way that they have the demon just like trapped underneath, and it's just like, come on, when you get to come get me, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I was just like,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
I was like, holy shit! I was like, this is some crazy stuff, and like I can't remember. So it's all kind of like jumbled, I'm like throwing all of this like horror, throwing all these years of horror at myself in like this 4-year span so far. But there was Cabin in the Woods was like another one that
I thought I literally thought Cabin in the Woods was like an Evil Dead sequel when it came out.
Yeah, so that's what I thought going into that. And so I like that, they worked with that trope of like, it's like cabin fever or Evil Dead, or like any of the other films where it's like you're trapped in this just house in the middle of nowhere. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like thinking about all this kind of like crazy stuff that's going on. And then like I don't want to say it was the Uno reverse, but when like you get to the end and you get the chainsaw arm.
Yes.
The end, like it went from like a very uncomfortable movie to a very frightening movie with the demon girl and on like underneath in the trap door kind of thing, to this like it was just raining blood. Like I feel like it should have had like Slayer playing in the background, because it was literally just, there was nothing out, like they're just coated in blood and she's just chopping away at this thing. But man, like some of those kills, like the needle thing, I hate needles. So I mean, they did that with Freddy Krueger when he had the girl. I think she was in was that the gym girl? Like he sticks her with needles and then he like breaks her arms or something. I might be mixing two of the kills up. But man, like anytime you get the needles, and then like, because in that one, in the Evil Dead, wasn't it like it went into like the guy's eye or something like that?
I think so.
I mean, they sort of kind of talked about that when they were talking about demons on the 101 worst or not or scariest moments. And they were talking about demons where it was like the whole where they're like bringing the face closer to the
no, that's Zombie.
Is a zombie? Okay.
Dude, that's Fulci. That is Lucio Fulci right there. We were talking about him earlier.
I know, like,
that is one of the fucking best scenes. Dude, you want to know what else is in that movie? There's a little off topic. But there's a scene where a zombie fights a shark.
In that film?
And he literally is a guy underwater. It's one of the most, it is one of the most like best shot things in horror cinema ever. It is a guy in zombie makeup who has fallen off of a boat and goes underwater, and a like tiger shark or not a tiger shark, a hammerhead shark, I think, tries to fucking eat him. Like comes up to him and he's just like, "Rah!" And he like fights it, and it's on camera. Look it up, dude. It's so fucking. It's not like cool, like by cool standards, but it's kind of this cool thing of just like they didn't fake that. This is a real shark that comes up to him and tries to fucking like attack him. Actually, no, that was not off topic, because Zombie is supposedly Italy's sequel to Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
Which is oddly enough a film I want to talk about if you're not done, or if you're done.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on about how I like the remake of that film. By the way, Derek Mears was
Derek Mears, yes.
Who
was Jason in that? Yes, thank you. Dawn of the Dead. I want to touch on that. And honestly, like I got kind of a fluid little like names to just kind of call out here. I don't really have like a solid list or anything. I think I'm done with hot sauce for the night too. But I want to talk about Dawn of the Dead 2000, and I think it's 2004, 2003 it came out, directed by Zack Snyder, who everybody fucking hates. But I don't mind at all. And people forget he made an absolute incredible, in my opinion, reboot of the 1978 George Romero classic, which is a commentary on baby boomer consumerism, basically, of the 70s and into the early 80s, basically. But Dawn of the Dead has probably one of the best, like Friday the 13th, has one of the best kind of like first 5-10 minutes of the main character just like going about her day, like gets up, goes to work. Have you seen it?
I want to say yes. Like I'm looking at the cover and I remember, is it like are they in a mall?
Yeah, they bring back the mall aspect to it. That's from the original. But the main character in it, she just like, she's a nurse, and she like, she goes to her job, and like you hear like these news stories that like there's some bad shit happening in the world. Mm-hmm. And then she's like at the hospital, like signing paperwork, and there's like all these people coming in on fucking like stretchers and stuff. And it's just kind of like very much in the background, and it just builds and builds and builds to like, why the fuck is this girl that looks like really pissed off and infected with something in my house? And then it just reveals like the world and what's happening. And it's just like a solid 10 minutes. And then like the credits kick in again. And it's just like this solid kind of kickoff. And like, honestly, like it would have made for even a great short film, the first few minutes of that movie. And then it kind of goes again into the mall aspect of it and all of that, which is a nice callback to the original. Great cast in that movie. Ving Rhames. Why can I only just think of Ving Rhames right now? They have, honestly, I feel like you don't watch this show, but the dad on the ABC show Modern Family is in that movie. I forget the actor's name. And he's like a really funny guy on that show, Modern Family, but he is a fucking douchebag, his character in this movie. And it's so, it's just kind of cool to see his range as an actor before he became like super famous. People forget how good a lot of people kind of like were like, oh yeah, Dawn of the Dead was really good. Cause I think like he directed by Zack Snyder, and people, the internet decided to really attack Zack Snyder the last 5-6 years because of Batman versus Superman and Justice League and whatever. But he made a hell of a reboot to that. And it's also written by James Gunn, who went on to do Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. Marvel and DC. He does both pretty much. And he got his start with Trauma. So he was around Lloyd Kaufman and making I almost spilled something. And making kind of a, campy B movies and whatnot. So yeah, no, I fucking love Dawn of the Dead. What else?
Well, before we move on though, I mean, I just want to say this about Zack Snyder, and I think that a lot of people are just really fixated on the whole Justice League thing and the Man of Steel, Batman, Superman, or whatever. But it's like I feel like people forgot that it's like he also worked on Watchmen and 300. Yeah. And one of my favorite movies, which I know a lot of people hated, but I loved it, was Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch, I think, yeah, like I've gone back to it and I don't really get into the plot, but that there's some fun things there. Like I don't hate that movie.
Yeah. So one of the other ones that I wanted to bring up, and I brought it up previously in this conversation we're having, is The Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
I'll just say I hated the remake. I hated it. I thought that there were a lot of interesting concepts, but it's like they had this great idea, they have all these kind of things that they want to do with this character, but for one, the makeup was horrible. It just didn't look
I could see it.
Great. And then like no one really died. Like there wasn't any point where like I felt like something was like gruesome, and I'm just like, this dude is vicious. Like he is there to torment you one way or another and just like rip you apart. Like that's so I figured, I was like, okay, there's a new one coming out. I'm like, he's gonna be ruthless. I'm probably going to lose sleep watching this. And it didn't happen. And going back and then watching the first Nightmare on Elm Street and like looking at all of those things, I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of people forget about that franchise is at that time you had all these other serial killer films that were coming out, and they're all in the regular realm. Like they might have some supernatural element to them, but this one, what makes it so freaky is that you can't go to sleep, and that's something that you can naturally be like, you just have to naturally do. I mean, you can run away from the other two. I mean, they'll catch up to you eventually, but it's like you're probably not going to run away from something that can follow you in your dreams. And the fact that that film, you can feel the passion in that project. I mean, the majority of those people that were working in the studio, they put their houses up. Like if it didn't make it, like they were going to lose their houses, they were going to lose like all of their property. There's a lot riding on that film. And so when you look at the creativity that was put into that film and the passion that was put into that film, it is absolutely terrifying. You know, the scene, and I know it's the scene that everybody kind of thinks about when they think about Nightmare on Elm Street, but when he reaches up and he just drags him down, you know, they're having a conversation and
Johnny Depp
grabs him. Yeah, just the way that they filmed that, you know, it's the whole inverted thing, and you know, so really the ceiling was the floor and the floor was the ceiling, but the way that they had that set up, like the first time. And I think this is another reason why I really like those films. And if I had this experience with Halloween and Friday the 13th, I'd probably love them way more than the kind of like appreciation that I have for them now. But I got caught watching that film as that was happening. And so for the longest time, I didn't know anything. I didn't know that you could stop him. I didn't know you could bring him out of the dream and like put an end to this like evil entity. So to me, Freddy Krueger was this thing that was like, he was going to come and get you in your dreams. There's no way to escape him. And like that was terrifying to me, is just having my parents come in and be like, you can't watch this, and then like turning it off. And I'm like, this dude, like, what do you do after that? you know? And so when I went back and I watched that movie, after high school, it was a few years after high school that I went back and I watched that film, and I started watching all the other ones, and I was like, oh, it's really not that bad. But it's the fact that it was just so visceral for that time and just so brutal and shocking. And you have all that expectation, and then you get to the new one, and you're just, I know that's why people just don't talk about it, because it's like the passion is not there, the
Yeah.
kills are not there, and it's kind of,
It's
I
it's
feel
not
like
having Wes Craven either.
yeah, like none of the roots are there.
Like Wes Craven, I mean, after the first one, like the second one's good and the third one is good. Well, people are iffy on the second one, but there's obviously a backstory to that you can go down a wormhole with that one. People love the third one, which Wes Craven I think was involved in, but I don't know if he directed it. I hope, don't hold me to that, anybody, all three of you that are watching. But after that, that's when Freddy kind of becomes this like cartoon character.
Yeah.
And that's why Wes Craven came back and did New Nightmare in the 90s, to kind of, that I think is a kick-ass installment, that made Freddy scary again. And I really, I think that was like the sixth one in the franchise. Yeah. It was really cool. It was really meta.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the 2010 one, you and I talked about this when we had our little meeting about the show. I didn't like it either. I don't even think I don't think I've seen it start to finish since the theaters. So it's been over 10 years now.
Yeah.
But I did say this. I did think it was this cool nod that it's almost like they hint at the fact that the parents got it wrong with killing Freddy, that it was a mistake, and now he's back to fuck these people up and kill their kids, which goes a little too extreme if you're going to kill their kids. But I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool, but like the movie as a whole, nah. Do you think, and like this will jump into my next one I'm going to talk about. I have technically two more I'm only going to really kind of mention one real quick. But do you think with these reboots, it's also like how we're getting older and how we are viewing them now, and like maybe we're just not having that connection anymore? Or do you just think these movies are being poorly made?
So I would say it's a combination, right? Because I mean, being 30, like now that I'm 35, so I became an old man on was it Friday?
Oh, it was your birthday?
Yeah.
I didn't even fucking know that. Oh, happy belated. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't even know.
Thanks, man. No worries. But I think like going, like, I'm a 35-year-old dude now, going back and watching Halloween and Friday the 13th for the first time. Well, not Friday the 13th. I've seen a few of them. But Halloween, I haven't seen any of them. And like going back and watching that stuff, and like, yeah, like there's like that super cheesy kind of factor to them, but like there's nothing attaching me to them with that nostalgia, right? And so I think with a lot of these series that are coming out now, I mean, there is that age gap where it's like we're going to be looking at these films that they're remaking, and we're just like, what the fuck is that? But at the same time, the people who are remaking these films are not that much older than us, or they're like our age.
Yeah.
And so to me, I feel like, like they're like, part of it is like, okay, so this is like for a new generation. So they have to tap in, because that's one of the things, and I will always stand by this, of why I don't like that term elevated genre or elevated horror. So horror has always been a reflection of society, what society is going through. And it's not that all films do that in the horror genres, but it is a big reflection of what is going on. So there's topics that like you and I probably just don't have a grip on, or we don't care about as much, because it's not impacting us the way that it is these younger audiences. So I mean, those films, all those slasher films, a lot of like the different scarier films that come out, a good chunk of those are geared towards people that are, in that high school, young college age, and we are not that anymore. We're not like shitting our diapers and walking around and with walkers and everything, but we're also, like we're not, the world is not new to us. Like we kind of, we know what's going on, versus a lot of younger people, there's things that are new to them, or there's things that, like different kinds of issues, like the stuff that's going on in Iran right now. Like, I am pretty sure at some point people will start making horror films about that, and like what's going on with Russia
from there
and
too.
Ukraine. From there. So I feel like now, especially with all the social media and all the different outlets now that people have to express themselves, like we're going to see a lot more remakes. We're going to see a lot of different reboots where they're taking the central idea and encapsulating themes and that match today's atmosphere and what's going on, and they're not going to really jive with us. And I think at our age, it's one of those things where we can still objectively be like, this is just not a good movie. But once you get into the subjective manner, I think that's where a lot of it comes down to, well, are you going to just look at what the movie is at a face value, or are you going to kind of dive a little bit deeper and look at what those subjective elements are, and can you relate to them, or could you relate to them? And I feel like if you can't do either of those, then like the movie's just trash.
Well, with all that being said, you mentioned Candyman. I think Candyman's a perfect example of maybe something you're trying to say, because I've seen it twice now, and I don't know, I feel like that is one of the better reboots I've seen of maybe the last 10 years of the famous franchises. I don't know what your take is, but
well, why don't we get your thoughts on Candyman, and then I'll dive into it, because I think we're both on the same page as far as Candyman.
I just like, I think I love Tony Todd in the role from the previous ones. He's like, even in the two bad sequels in the 90s, he still fucking owns in it. And to find out, when they're doing this new movie, Jordan Peele's behind it, so you might kind of get a vibe the direction they're going to go. I think like you started hearing elevated horror, which you and I both kind of don't like that word. But like you started hearing about it when Jordan Peele got big, I feel. But regardless, like, I don't know, like I know you're very critical of Jordan Peele. But when I heard he was involved, I felt like, well, fuck it. Why don't you just make him direct it? But it was cool for him to kind of just craft something and pass it off to someone else. And I like, there's a lot of it originally takes place in Chicago. Even the original one does. And, we hear about Chicago, like, I feel like on a weekly basis on the nightly news about all the crime that goes on in Chicago. We've been hearing about it since Obama was in office and Trump was running for office, and how, how bad Chicago is. And
I'll say it, since Tyler can't technically, it's always the blacks. a lot of the time when you hear something, it's always like it's to make the African American community look bad. And I think both Candymans, the old one and the new one, they do a really great job of pointing that out.
It's a, I don't know, like I feel like it's a great environment for a horror film. Like that world, that movie, that franchise, the new one and the old one, fuck it, even those bad 2 straight to video sequels, like that is living proof to me that you can take almost any environment in the world, America or overseas, and you can find a way to pull a horror story out of it. And it's just, I mean, I know it was like originally crafted by Clive Barker, a white man. But I think he did it with so much like knowledge of what he was getting into.
Yeah. And you feel that in the film.
Yeah, you do. It really resonates really well. And the new one, I thought, just took all of that and expanded on it so well. And, you know, there's this old, I'm going to butcher the saying, but it's by David Cronenberg. And basically what he's kind of saying in it is, you know, the thing that's always going to be our downfall and, you know, pretty much wipe us off this planet is always going to be there. And it's constantly, and it catching up to us, and it's finally going to get to us, and it's going to be our demise. It's something like that. And I feel like in the new Candyman, not that it's like a certain character's demise, but like to see what happens to, well, I'll say it, it's the main character. I mean, most people have seen it. To kind of see the absolute destruction, but kind of revival he goes through by the end, and what he becomes, was a genius plot move.
Yeah. I think like
that's one of the take on Candyman.
So I think one of the biggest things that sticks out to me about that film, and honestly, to go back, and this would probably be something that comes up again at another time. Maybe when we go back and we talk about the Halloween and the Friday 13th franchises, and maybe some stuff will come up about Jordan Peele. I don't hate his movies. I don't like them either. But one of the things that really got me thinking more about Candyman was the documentary series on Shudder is Horror Noir.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things for me growing up, you know, no offense to you or any of my other friends, but it's like I grew up as a mixed child in a white neighborhood. Yeah. So the whole Black identity for me growing up was very weird, because it's like I listened to metal music, I watched anime, and like I did all these like things that weren't stereotypical. Like no, like people would be like, oh, like, you know, like I remember I was at it was after work, and I was having a couple drinks, and this girl comes up to me, and I don't think she really meant anything bad by it. I mean, she was drunk and she was hitting on me, and this song came on, and she was like, oh, you got to come dance with me. And I was like, no, like I don't do that. And she was like, oh, but come on, like your kind really knows how to dance. And I was like,
she was a white girl?
Yeah. And I was just, and I was trying to think, I'm like, is she meaning to say that way? Or is it just because she's drunk or what? And so it's like, I always had all these like weird, like off the wall kind of remarks. And like, I didn't really know how to deal with them because I hadn't really tapped into that, that area of my life yet. Right. I didn't really do that until like my late 20s. And especially like with films, that was something that always bothered me, because a lot of the times it wasn't the Black guy or the African American, if you want to be politically correct, man or woman who was front and center. You know, they were the person that you saw as like the sacrifice character, right? Like they're the first person to die to let you know that things aren't going to go well. And so for me, I loved how they took that victimization from the first film and the victimization in the remake and just flipped it. And you're like, nope, like this is how society sees us, but that's not how it's going to be portrayed. Like, and they give the power to this character. And I love that in the newer version, it's more refreshing watching the way that Candyman reacts and to everything, and how these other characters are reacting. And like you said, you know, it's like there's this lull, right? So it's like they start here, they go down this dark tunnel, and then they're like reimagining themselves. Yeah. And you see this like dark society and like how it's treating these people and the brutal impact that it's had on this community and how they're trying to rebuild everything. And I didn't really get it until after I watched that show. And then it was like I sat down with like some brothers and sisters, and they're like, look, we got to tap into this part of you that you haven't really explored yet. And yeah, so when I went back, so I watched that film in theaters, and then I saw that documentary. I went back and watched it again, and it just hit me in a completely different way. And I would say that Candyman is probably one of the only films where I equally like the original and the remake.
Yeah, I would agree. It's like I don't even know which one's better, because I don't know, because the new one's fresh in my mind, and I'm really kind of hyped about it. It hit really well on the big screen too.
Yeah. The way they introduced him, man, with the bathroom scene, and that one girl was like, "Nah, I'm not doing this."
Yeah, I feel like, because it was I don't even remember who directed the original Candyman. I don't know if you can look that up.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
But like, my take on black cinema, black filmmakers, is when, like, and I was talking about this on my podcast like a year ago. We did an episode devoted to during Black History Month.
Bernard Rose.
Okay, I don't know if he's a white guy or not, or is that a woman?
No, okay, it's a white guy.
But like, I still think the original Candyman's great, but I think the fact that when you bring in, when you're making a film where your entire cast, Black, African American, and you have a white filmmaker, I'm not saying it's going to be a bad movie, but I'm saying, like, maybe like it's just like that fucking movie that won Best Picture, Green Book, 2 years ago. Like, it's a movie about a black guy and a white guy who, have their prejudices against each other, but they become friends. But it's done in such like a surface level kind of way. It's just like, people don't talk like that to each other, like in that movie. Like, it's just so fucking like a white guy and a person of color. I'm not even just talking black, just anybody, like, anybody who's just trying to have some understanding with one another and bridge some sort of gap that's been built up by years of prejudice from generations before us. We don't talk like that to each other. So when I see films like that, it's like a white filmmaker behind. I'm not saying like white people can't fucking, like, Spielberg made Color Purple and everybody loves that movie. Yeah. But like, well, he's also fucking Steven Spielberg. But like, sometimes what I'm getting at here is Nia DaCosta made the new Candyman. Jordan Peele is behind it. The entire cast is predominantly black. It feels like a lot of people who worked on the film are people of color or something. And I think that just helped enhance the story. Like, I think there's just stories out there. I don't know if I'm going to get called on this or not for being a shithead, but like, I think if you're going to have a film that is about the culture, I'm not going to direct it. Like, I mean, if I were a famous director and Candyman landed on my table, I would have been like, looks great. I don't think I'm your guy though. Yeah. And I think that just helps. And I think that's, one of the reasons why, we have films like that kind of coming out now, and films about, LGBTQ culture, whether it's horror or not. Like, you have someone in that community making that movie. I think it gives more of a powerful message. Yeah.
And I think like one of the big things too now is like when you look at, and this is crazy, at least to me, and looking at the way that people write stuff now versus in the 80s and the 90s, and maybe I'm wrong here, but one of the things that I learned about, just from the podcast, Geanerik podcast, and talking to some of the different people on there, and then just going to the different writing conventions around the Austin area, and learning about sensitivity readers, And I don't know if that's something that they did in the 90s and in the 80s, and even before then. I feel like a lot of those films, they were just kind of like, all right, we're going to make this film where we're going to write this book and we're just going to put it out and it's going to be in this perspective and these are going to be the characters. And it's that kind of like projection of what you think it's like versus now it's like there are a lot of authors. And I don't know if this is something that they do in film. I'm pretty sure they probably do, but where they will reach out to people that they know or people that like prominent figures in certain areas and they'll be like, hey, I have something that I'm working on. Before I release it, I want you to look at it and I want you to tell me what you think about it from your perspective. Like, is this how you feel or is this how you would react? And I think that by doing that, a lot of these films are creating that other layer that a lot of these films back then were missing.
Because that's true, because there's something I'm writing kind of on and off right now, and the main character is from India.
Mhm.
And I have a friend and I kind of pitched him the idea. It's not a horror film. I didn't really pitch him, but I was just like, look, he's of that culture. Right. And I just kind of like, look, here's what I'm doing. My main character is originally from India, immigrated from here. It's kind of like a coming of age movie during like the early 2000s, and 9/11 kind of plays into it. I'm pitching stuff here on the air right now. And I was just like, and I basically said like, look, when I have something, or like when I have any questions about something, like, look, I'm not going to make this like this full on masterpiece of, it takes place in America. Like the character's surrounded by white people. So like for the most part. But I was just like, look, I have points I want to hit in this plot in terms of his background and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Can I run some things by you? Because I don't want to be the white guy that fucked it up.
Right. And I think, I mean, again, that goes back to, I feel like the reach that we have when you use it productively.
Yeah.
Social media and technology and being able to reach out to people, whether it's face to face or whether it's like through Zoom like this or any other kind of way, and just being like, hey, can you just look over this? Like Sean was saying that he did that for a trans character that he was writing. Like there's that huge element of.
Wait, someone left a comment?
Yeah.
There's sweet.
I've had this.
I haven't looked at the feed the whole time, man.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody who's commenting. So, I mean, I think that's really huge, and getting that like critical feedback, because everyone's like, oh, well, write what you know, and it's just like I kind of feel like that's almost a little damning, because it's like, yes, write what you know, but don't feel afraid to write what you don't know and ask other people if it's in the realm of plausibility.
Yeah. Well, I want to do a mic drop on that.
Yeah.
Mic drop, hot sauce drop. Look, I have let's wrap things up here. I had 2 more movies I wanted to talk about, but they were movies I literally wanted to mention real quick before we go. This isn't going to top the conversation we just had, but the Child's Play remake in 2019 did not. This is going to be a horrible transition. I don't even know. Real quick, the Child's Play remake in 2019, everybody hated. I thought there were some good ideas. Look, I don't know last time when you saw the Chucky movies. I love the original one so much. It is not what people. I love the Chucky character. It's gone on to kind of take on what Freddy became when Wes Craven stopped making nightmare movies, but he's still kind of cool. But the original Child's Play, I think, is like an actual really good suspenseful movie that builds to that moment where the main character is
she's alone in the apartment and she realizes Chucky doesn't have any batteries in. And there's that scene where she's like, come on, talk to me. And then he just, comes to life. And he's like, you stupid bitch, you It's so fucking funny.
It's just like the diarrhea of the mouth. Full force.
It's such a fucking perfect but also terrifying scene.
Yeah.
And but regardless of that, they reboot Chucky or Child's Play in 2019, and not a lot of people cared for it, and I didn't, because it's 2 hours long, and that's like 30 minutes longer than a Child's Play movie needs to be. But I have to say this about that reboot, and I don't know if you saw it.
I have only watched the YouTube cuts, so you're not going to ruin anything. I'm definitely going to go back.
No, like I've only seen it once, and it was in theaters, and it was pretty. The overall movie is pretty forgettable, but I thought they explored a cool idea with rather it being Chucky, this possessed ex serial killer thing, and it's AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting in the theater going, not a lot of people are going to like that, because there's such a following for Chucky and, the overall lore of how, this killer is this doll was possessed by a serial killer.
Yeah.
But like the more we're going to see a lot more tech horror as we go further in life, with, as long as you got a guy like Elon Musk out there and whoever the fuck else is out there, whether you agree with them or not,
Mm-hmm.
they are trying to further, tech and whatnot, and how things work in day-to-day life. And, I'm 34 and I'm turning into an old man at times. So like tech kind of creeps me out. And I actually really appreciated the fact, though, that they made Chucky into this AI thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in the long stretch of it, I don't think it worked out.
Yeah.
So that's Child's Play. Last thing I want to hit, and I've not a lot about to say this, but it popped up on Shudder about 6 months ago. I don't know if it's still on there. The 2005 House of Wax movie. Do you remember that one?
Oh, is that the one with Paris Hilton in it?
Yes, it is. So the original House of Wax is like actually really fucking terrifying. There is a absolutely terrifying moment in the climax of that movie, where the wax falls off of a character's face and you see like his real face. And I think it's actually gives me chills thinking about it. The House of Wax remake, co-starring Paris Hilton, bombed when it came out because I think everybody hated Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, we forget this. There was a genius marketing move on that movie where literally I've seen photos of it. Like Paris Hilton's like at a premiere of it. And if you look back in hindsight, she was like the first social media influencer before social media. I'm not a Paris Hilton fan, but I could neither here nor there. I don't really give a shit. But there was a marketing slogan for that movie called "See Paris Hilton Die." And that's what got people to go fucking see the movie, because they fucking hated Paris Hilton. And she was behind
she ran with it. She
ran with it. She's like, fuck it. Yeah, she got on board with it. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool, kind of.
Yeah.
Like she knew who her audience, she knew who her haters were, and she ran with it. But I went back and I saw that in theaters when, you and I graduated the same class. Like I saw it when it came out, and I didn't care for it. Whatever. It's a dumb slasher movie. I think I saw it in like a date. And I went back when it was on Shudder. Kind of fun, a lot of fun, cool kills. I mean, people getting fucking burned alive by like wax and shit. Like it's fucking cool. Cool set design too. So some of these, like, I feel like some of these reboots that may have sucked coming out, maybe go back and give them a second chance. I'm not talking about like the tentpole like franchises, like Nightmare. The reboot sucked there. People are hot and cold with Texas Chainsaw. I think it's actually not that bad. I'm not talking about the Netflix one. I'm talking about the one with Jessica Biel. But Black Christmas 2006.
Yes.
That one was a lot of fun. And that didn't do well when it came out. Then Blumhouse did one thing in like 2019 or something, and Someone made a joke and said like, "This is like if Twitter was a movie."
So I'm kind of curious. So there is another movie coming out. Same guy that plays Art, Mr. Thornton. He is going to be in a movie called Mean One.
Okay.
And I get some Black Christmas vibes from that film, like they're borrowing some of that kind of weirdness from that film and like inserting it into that.
Interesting.
So movie's not out yet, but I'm just going to plug it because I'm super excited for it.
All right.
But with the House of Wax and the other movie that you're mentioning here, I just wanted to put out that if there were like two movies, right, that you could see be remade, I don't think either of my picks here will ever happen. But I'll turn the tables to you in a second to see what two movies you would want to see. But I would love to see a remake of Pumpkinhead. The original Pumpkinhead is by far my favorite Halloween movie. And if that is not on anyone's Halloween list, I don't know what the hell you're doing. And if you haven't seen it, don't know what the hell you're doing. I know people can say the same thing about me and Halloween and everything, but I'm catching up.
Right.
But Pumpkinhead is one of those films. And then The Blob, that movie scared the hell out of me when I was a child. I don't know how you would make that relevant today, but between The Blob and The Stuff and like the weird like consumerism things that have been going on in that, you know, like if they took The Stuff and The Blob and maybe American Psycho, because all three of those films kind of deal with consumerism in some way, shape, or form. If they could take those three films and put them together and make a film out of that, I would be so happy, as long as it's good. And then Pumpkinhead is just, I love that fucking film.
Yeah, that's Pumpkinhead's fucking awesome. All right. So I all right, I got a few. All right, I'm not gonna spend too far because we should probably wrap up in a sec.
Yeah.
But first one I think deserves a remake, and I think there was rumors of it being remade. And if you know any more, please speak up. Event Horizon.
Ooh.
But I think I want to say maybe they're turning. I heard like some rumors of maybe it was going to be a show, or maybe they are trying to reboot it. Event Horizon. We don't have any good space horror, or do we? No, I don't think we do currently.
Not recently.
And the crazy thing about Event Horizon, the marketing for that movie was so fucked up. And that movie was, I think, just promoted as science sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie's fucking terrifying. The last, like what happens to Sam Neill by the time that movie ends is what the fuck.
Yeah.
So like I remember seeing that when I was like 9 years old, and I had nightmares forever. I was gonna say, and like I can't necessarily say this because they did remake it and it was awful, bombed. People forgot about it. Jacob's Ladder.
They remade that?
Exactly. People forget. It came and went, and it was
wow.
awful.
Okay.
And
I love that movie only because Silent Hill is my favorite video game franchise next to Metroid.
Oh hell yeah, dude.
So there'd be Jacob's Ladder and Alien to thank for those.
So next I got a few more. I wrote some stuff down. Let me just close my phone out for a fucking minute. This has been remade, but I think they need to give it another shot because of your A24s making horror films. Let's disregard for a second the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man movie from 2006, and let's give Wicker Man another shot at a reboot. I think that's a fun folk horror that deserves, I don't know. I think A24 should get behind that or find somebody to do it. And you mentioned, what was it, like David Edward Thornton there is doing like a Christmas horror film.
Mm-hmm. Mean One.
I think none other than the not so great, but it's really, in theory, it's not a great franchise at all, but Silent Night, Deadly Night needs some sort of cool reboot or remake or revamping of that franchise. It's kind of crazy. People love the second Silent Night, Deadly Night more than they love like any of the other ones. Yeah, and I think you could probably have fun with doing some fun fan service while also making it like a cool beat for beat, like really fun flick. So yeah, those are my picks.
So if memory serves me correct, I want to say it's the director. I thought this was very strange, and let me just look it up to make sure. But I think it was it's one of the Godzilla films. So it was either the director for Godzilla All Monsters or Godzilla versus King Kong, but one of those, unless it's the same person, I don't know. I believe that they picked up the rights to remake Event Horizon.
Yeah, because I
don't
think you're
know if
right,
it
because
got
I did hear
dropped
something
or-
about it soon. Like I'm sure someone has to have the rights to that because there's a lot of push to kind of want to see more of that world.
Yeah, I feel like whoever that is, if they got some good actors on board, because that's like, I feel like once you get into sci-fi horror, you start to blend those genres where you expect the acting to be at a higher level.
Yeah.
And I feel now, like, especially like A24, a lot of the films that they put out, that's one of the things that they're looking for when they pick these films up is like, who do you have on the actor? Like, who's on that roster? So I think if they put everything together, and you can get like I don't care what anybody says, the Universal Godzilla films, they look amazing. That's one of the only films where I can look at it and be like, yeah, I can see how they would make an Event Horizon film and make it look good.
Yeah.
But the acting has to, the cast has to be there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Cool, dude. I think we're out of hot sauce. I think we're out of beer.
On a hot sauce, my ass is probably going to not like it later on when it
I'm
comes
no
out the other
longer. It looks like I have hair gel.
end.
So
My arms, I need to like scrub my arms. They're only all the sweat has come out of them. But I mean, we've been going for 2 hours, man. This is a good episode.
Yeah, let's we're gonna wrap things up here.
Yeah.
Thank you for everybody who came and went and listened.
Commented, shared.
Yeah, dude, yeah, fuck yeah. So as some of you know, this is a bi-weekly show. So we will be back the day before Halloween on the 30th.
Yes.
Until then, where can we find you on the interwebs, Geanerik?
Well, interestingly enough, I started doing podcast episodes again. So one of the guests that is in our chat room at the moment, Sean Cochran, I just cut an episode and uploaded that, so you can check that out on the Geanerik podcast. On the 30th, I am also dropping another episode. I'll be talking to Dylan Brown. He has more than a couple indie horror films that y'all should check out. The Flock is one of them. It'll be on Tubi pretty soon. He has another one, Devil's Children, that is on Tubi, so you can go ahead and check those out. And I think there's another one that is either just dropped or it's going to be coming out pretty soon. Tahoe Joe. So go ahead and check those out. I am dropping a shorter blog segment tomorrow on GeanerikWrites.wordpress.com. So you can go ahead and check that one out. That one is about the movie The Night Eats the World. If you have not seen that movie, I highly suggest you check that film out.
Good one.
It's great. I love that film. I love those kind of films that take a genre that you're well versed in and put a spin on the perspective of how you approach it. In that film, I feel does that very well. Yeah, so in the comments, Sean is saying that Tahoe Joe just got sold to a distributor, so you'll be seeing that one in the future, either maybe later this year or next year. I'm not quite sure, but I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, you can check me out at Geanerik is my handle for both TikTok and Instagram. You can check me there. You can add me on Twitter if you want. I'm not on there too often. Mainly, I just go on sometimes to see what other people are doing. I may comment on something every once in a while. And then I will keep plugging it until it comes out. I'm not going to drop the title here, but it is listed on my profile on Instagram. My first collection of short stories will be coming out next year. I'm going to be looking for beta readers in the next month. I'm wrapping up the stories that I have in that and just getting the editing done on those. And so probably come springtime, you'll see that first story or collection of stories. So those are all the places that you can check me out. And then what about you?
Me? So you can catch me over on Instagram at Mr. Geis. You can also catch me Mondays on my little audio podcast show I do, Tyler Geis's Basement. I did the last time we did this. I'm going to do it again today. I'll just let people know who's on the show tomorrow. Tomorrow on the show, I got none other than Duncan Birmingham, who wrote and directed the Shudder original or exclusive, whatever, I get confused. Who Invited Them? It is a horror comedy about it's about these people in the Hollywood Hills who throw a party, and once they realize everybody's gone, there's actually oh fuck, I just dropped my something. After they realize everybody's gone, there is 2 guests that are still there, and they absolutely make the rest of the night go absolutely south. It is a fun horror comedy. 80 minutes, nice and tight.
Oh, nice.
Perfect runtime. Duncan he's worked with, Mark Maron. He was a writer on his show and everything. And he's a Massachusetts guy, originally from the Boston area. He used to write in tabloid news. He used to work for the Inquirer and shit and whatnot. So he used to write Bigfoot stories, and it was funny. Great interview, a lot of fun. It's gonna be dropping tomorrow morning at some point. So check that out. I don't know what else. Check me out on Twitter. I'm a Mr. Geist. I started going back to Twitter because I don't know. I started getting some traction over there. So I don't really like to really dive too far into Twitter, but and find me on Facebook and whatnot. And, I'm going to be going up and getting some New England vibes because I'm going to go see some family up north before I come back for the next episode. And don't forget to follow Hot Genre Topics on Instagram. And obviously we'll be building the YouTube page as the weeks go on, because we have just switched to YouTube. It's our first night doing it, and we are going to continue to be doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're on TikTok as well, so you can follow.
Yes, sir.
Follow the TikTok, Hot Genre Topics on TikTok, Hot Genre Topics on Instagram, and here on YouTube.
And please suggest us if you want to leave comments. We'll come back and check or whatnot, or reach out to us on Instagram. Hot sauces we should probably check out. Randy, you did a good job, but I think we started having a really serious conversation. I forgot to keep having more hot sauce.
So anytime anybody who's watching this, anybody who's listening in, checks our pages, plug some beers for us, plug hot sauces. You got some indie films you want us to check out, leave it in the comments. Comment on our pages, let us know if there's any kind of topics or questions that you guys want to see us tackle in the future. We're doing this for 10 episodes, but if it's something where more and more people want us to talk about certain topics and to dive deeper into certain issues or things that are surrounding horror, whether it's indie or AAA films or whatever else, go ahead. I mean,
AAA films?
I was going to say games, but
I was like, what the fuck is that?
No, I know we're talking about films, but I have there's gameplay from the remake of Dead Space, the video game Dead Space. Nice. And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to watch it. I don't know if anybody has ever played that game, but if you're huge into the Alien franchise, it's basically the video game version of it. It's freaking terrifying.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, pretty much anything you all want us to see us talk about or plug, let us know.
All right. God, I wish we had like outro music, but we don't. Maybe in the rear we'll tweak some shit. But if you missed it or you're just tuning in right now, we're about to hop off. But catch the rear maybe in a few days or something. See you all on the 30th. See you next time.